so you have your blank canvas here. You go up to the wrench tool and you say add, the add thing right here, and you say insert a photo. Tap on the photo you want and it brings the photo in for you like this, okay? So I'm gonna resize it. If you already had your photo in here and you didn't resize it, just tap on this little, the resizing tool, or whoops, up there, and you'll get the same, you know, adjustment stuff that you can do, okay? I'll make it a little bit bigger. So about that big. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go into our layers panel. We're going to tap the N on the photo layer of the rose. We're going to tap the N, that brings up this panel. We're going to take our opacity down to about 50%. Okay. Now we're going to add a layer. Okay, so now you're on layer 2. Everybody make sure they're on layer 2. And you've got, from your color picker, you double tap here on the bottom to get black. And then in your brushes panel, you're going to go to, let's see, I think is it calligraphy? Yeah, the calligraphy brush group. You're going to choose the monoline brush. All right, so now I'm going to check the size. That is way too big. That's better. So I have it set to size 15 or 15%, and the opacity is all the way up. Okay, and so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trace over my photo. So I'm just doing like the basic shapes of the petals. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Just the basic, like each petal. Hold on, you'll see as I get more done. And we lowered the opacity so you can see the difference between, you know, your brush, like your marks, and the photo. I'm sorry?
Is it layer 1 that's the reduced?
Yeah. And be certain you're working on layer 2, that's important. So see how I'm outlining it up there?
Okay.
Okay, so when you're done tracing, it should look something like that. Okay, so we're going to add a new layer. All right, and then we're going to drag layer 2 up on top of layer 3. And so that is so that everything you do underneath, everything, your outline will stay on top of everything you do from here on out, because the outline's the top. And so in order to drag it, you have to hold your pencil on it for a second until it kind of pops up, and then you can move it. So I'm gonna move it back up now. All right, so now we're gonna do something super fancy. This is fun. Okay, we're gonna go into our brush group, and we are going to go to, what was the group? Painting. We're going to go to our painting group right here, and we're going to take this round brush. I have a brush that I made up above it, but you're going to take this round brush, it'll be your top brush most likely, and you're going to slide it over to the left until you get this, and you're going to say duplicate. Okay, so now we have 2 of this round brush. So we're going to take the one we just made, you're going to tap on it and then tap on it again to bring up the brush studio. Now, I'm not going to go over all the stuff on the Brush Studio because that's a whole class in and of itself without doing anything else. And it does so much. That is beyond the introductory digital painting Procreate class. But we are going to play with a feature of it, okay? That's really cool. So we have our Brush Studio here, and you can just, like all of these things, you can go in and play around with them. Always duplicate your brush. Don't do this to your original brush, okay? Duplicate it, then go play with it. And then when you want to see as you change things, you can make marks over here on your drawing pad to see how those marks affect the brush, or how those changes affect the brush, okay? But what we're gonna do is we're gonna go down here to about this brush. You may have to scroll this up a little bit to see it. You're gonna select about this brush, okay? And we're gonna change the name of the brush. Let's see, we're gonna tap in here at the very top where it says Round Brush 1. And we're gonna call it Round Brush Color, whoops, I want that capitalized, Shift, Color Dynamic. Okay, so then we're going to go into Color Dynamics right here. Okay, and you see at the top it says Stamp Color Jitter and then Stroke Color Jitter down here. These are all adjustments that you can make, but we're not going to mess with those. You want everything set to 0, okay? All of your things set to 0.
Is it on the color pressure and everything?
On the color pressure, the 0 is in the middle.
Okay. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Yep, all zeros are done.
Okay, and so then what you're going to do is under color pressure, you are going to change the color pressure change, on color pressure, you're going to change the secondary color to 40%. Okay, so I just make sure it's on color pressure, and you change the secondary color up to about 40%. No? Okay, so we're gonna say done. And then we're gonna go into, let's see, let me make sure, okay, I do have a clean layer. So we're gonna go into our color picker. Oh, first we're gonna go into our layers. Sorry, I forgot about this part. I'm gonna go into our layers and we're gonna select the photo, okay? The layer with the photo. And we're gonna hit that in again. And we're gonna turn up our opacity. And then we're gonna go into our color picker, and I'm going to, so you see over here, let me change this one. So you see here I have these two little boxes, right? And you have those no matter what palette you're on except for the palettes palette, then it disappears. So we have those two boxes there. So you're going to tap on the first one, and then you're going to put your finger on a light part of the rose and hold it down until it picks up the color. So it should look like this. And when you let go, it'll change that first box to that color. Okay? And now we're going to tap on the second box, and you're going to put your finger down on a darker pink, like up in the middle. Okay, so right now I have both my colors set and this pink, right? And I want that pink, but I want a lighter pink too. So now I'm going to put my finger over the light part, and now I have the light pink and the darker pink, the medium pink. So now we're going to go back onto that layer 3, that blank layer that we made. And we are going to, actually, I'm sorry, nope, we're not. We're going to go layer 1, back on the photo, and we're going to hit the move arrow. And we're going to move the photo out of the way and resize it so we can use it as a reference, but it isn't underneath our rows. So we can see what we're doing. Okay? So tap the arrow, go back to your layers, go on your blank layer 3. All right, so now we're all on layer 3, right? Everybody's on layer 3? Okay. So make sure that your outline is the top layer, and then you're working on the empty layer in between your photo and your outline. So we're in our brush library. You have the round brush color dynamic one selected, right? And so let's check the size. I've got it, let's do about a 10. And we're gonna make it full opacity, okay? Now over here, like off the rows, I just want you guys to play with the brush a little bit so you understand what it does. So you're gonna start out with like light pressure, okay? And you see a little bit of that, and start applying heavy pressure, and look what happens. So I'm gonna tap my brush marks away now that we know how to use it. And so you just have your outline that's on your top layer, but we're not working on this layer, we're working on the blank one that's in between. So what we're gonna do now is kind of looking at our flower. We're gonna start here with a light pink, and you can zoom in on this. I'm gonna start with a light pink. And for me, that's, for most of you, I think that's using light pressure to add in these light colors. And again, this doesn't have to be perfect. You can do it fairly quickly. Oops, that got a little dark. And then as you come around, like, you know, this petal here, as it curves into the center of the rose, it gets darker. So I apply a little bit more pressure. And you just go around the rose. We're gonna add in more colors, but so this is our light and our medium pink that we're doing right now, okay? And it's okay if it looks streaky and funky, that's all okay. Oops. I love this, the way this works with this brush. And another thing that I think is really cool with having it set up where you can combine the two colors is, one of the things that frustrates me is it's really hard to mix complementary colors with the color pickers that you have. With the different ways that they have of mixing colors. You can lower the saturation, but you're lowering it by adding black or adding white. So you're getting shades or tints, you're not getting mutes, which these are all drawing things. But I work a lot with using muted colors and want to be able to add in my own amount of a complementary color in order to make the color that I want, and I can do it with this. So it's very exciting. Okay, so now we're gonna go into our layers panel and we're gonna add a new layer. And then we're going to go back into our color picker. And I'm going to pick, let's see, I'm gonna pick a medium pink and dark pink. So I already have the medium pink on both my colors for some reason are medium pink. So I'm gonna pick a dark, down on this bottom leaf that's really dark, I'm gonna pick that color, okay? And then because I want my medium pink in front of that, I'm gonna see what happens if I do this. Nope, that didn't do it for me. So I think to get this one, the second box, the medium or the dark pink, I need to tap into it, yeah, and then that changed it. And then tap into the front one and get the medium pink until I have, it looks black up there, but I use this bottom leaf for the color. So make sure that you are on layer 4, in between layer 2 and layer 3. Okay? And now we're gonna do the same thing, but we're gonna do our midtones and our darks. Okay? So same brush, you're just gonna build up your darks a little bit more and add a little bit more into your midtones. So look for all of those darker areas in your rose. I'm going to make a new layer, and then I'm going to go into my color picker, and I'm just going to bring my pencil or my color down until it's like a really dark pink, almost black. So then we're going to change the brush to the medium airbrush. So remember, that's not the medium brush, the first one in the airbrush group. It's, you scroll down and it's the medium airbrush. Okay, and let me see my brush size. So I like that size. So I have it at, the size is 10% and the opacity is, I'm gonna lower it a little bit to about 70%. And where you have all of the really dark recesses on here, you're gonna put that color in, okay? And this is on a separate layer, this is on layer 5. And now remember, this brush doesn't have the color dynamics to it, so it's not gonna work the same way as far as the pressure goes. Now I'm gonna go into the smudge tool, and I'm going to go into the, I believe it's the charcoals group, and I'm gonna use the burnt tree brush at the very bottom. And let's see, let me double check the size. I've got it, like that's the size I have, right about there. And I'm gonna use that in these dark areas to blend it out and give it some texture, okay? And you wanna pull the color, being mindful of, because on the petals, a lot of times it's very light on one side, and then on the other side of the petal, it's very dark. And so you don't want to bring your darks over into your lights. You want to push them into the darker area. Does that make sense? But this brush adds great texture. While you're on this layer, any dark areas that need to be cleaned up where it went outside the lines, just go ahead and find those and use your eraser tool to clean those up, okay? And the nice thing about it all being on separate layers that, like, say, like here I got some some of the dark tones on where it should be really light. I can just go in and clean up that light side and not erase the stuff that I've already put down that should be there. We're gonna move down to layer 4 and do the same thing. You're gonna smudge with the same tool and same brush and just kind of blend things out a little bit. Once I've smudged around enough, I'm going to take my eraser tool and clean up anything that's outside the lines on this layer. And sometimes it's hard to know what layer it's on, so you can try and erase it. If it doesn't erase it, it's on a different layer, and that's okay. So I'm on layer 3 now, and I'm going to do the same thing with the smudge tool. And just blend things out. I'm going to turn off my photo because it's kind of in my way at this point. And then clean up my edges. All right, so you should have something that looks a little bit like this, okay? So now what we're going to do is we're going to turn off our background layer. So open up your layers panel, turn off your photo. So hit the little check mark there to turn off the photo, and then you're going to turn off your background layer. Okay? And then you're going to, while you're here, you're going to combine all of your rose photos, or rose layers, not your photo, but the rest of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my fingers on the top and the bottom layer of the ones, oops, oh, I don't know what that did. The ones that I want to select. So I'm going to put a finger on layer 2 and on layer 3, and I'm going to pinch them together and they turn into one layer. We've got the one layer here. You have the photo layer, and then you have layer 3 or whatever it was, okay? So we're gonna slide this layer over to the left, and we're gonna say duplicate. Okay, so now we have 2 of that same layer. Okay, now I'm gonna turn off the top layer and select the second layer. And I'm gonna tap it, and I'm gonna say alpha lock. I'm going to go over here to my color picker, and I'm going to double tap to get white. Double tap over in the light area to get white. Did I get white? Come on, get it really white. Okay, and then I'm going to go back into my layers panel. You're going to tap back on that layer on the left side. You're going to say fill layer, and it turns it into that. Okay? So now I'm going to turn, so the reason it looks like that is the brush that we used had some opacity. If it didn't have opacity, this whole thing would have turned white. But there are areas that it was fairly transparent where there was color, so it didn't fill it up completely. So to fix that, we're going to tap on layer 3 over on the left again. We're going to turn off alpha lock. And we're going to go and get, let's see, the medium airbrush is fine. Oops. So on your brush tool, just get the medium airbrush and then just go ahead and make sure your opacity is up and just try not to go outside of the lines here, but fill in all of, let me see if it'll color drop. It won't. Fill in all of the darker areas.
So it's all white.
So it's all white.
Should you leave anything or should it just all be white?
It should all be white. And it's not the end of the world if you go outside of the lines a little bit. Just try to be a little careful.
But the image should be fully full.
It should be fully filled with white only. All right, so now I'm going to turn my rose layer, my top rose layer back on, okay? But I'm gonna keep it selected on the duplicate layer 3 that's all white. And I'm gonna go over here to my adjustments panel. And we're gonna hit Gaussian blur. I'm gonna slide it over until I get like a nice halo around it that looks something like this, okay? Okay, so now this part is tricky, so pay close attention, right? I'm gonna hit the selection panel. Oops. And that's gonna bring this up. I want it on automatic and add, okay? And I'm gonna take my pencil and draw across, like bring my pencil across the screen until I get this weird like border around my rose.
Oh.
And then I'm gonna tap on invert. So it does that, which is not what you would think you want it to do. All right, you're gonna go into your layers panel
Got it.
and you have your layer 3 your white layer selected, and you see all of the like weird diagonal lines across it.
Yes.
Okay, so now we're gonna tap on the left and you're gonna say fill layer. If somebody wanted to export their sticker to use on their, to cut out with their Cricut or whatever, what you would do is go up here to the wrench tool and say share. Move this wire out of the way. And share it as a PNG because the PNG has a blank background, okay? So I'm gonna say save image, it says export successful. So now let me go into my photos and see what I got. Oh, get out of there. And so there it is. So if I were to drop that into my Cricut software or whatever, it would come up just like this. And this is the line that the Cricut would cut out. Okay?